on. So,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah. Hey, this is CANDIA RAQUEL, founder of Centro de Poder, and you are at the Sensual Sessions podcast, the place to sense pleasure through your senses and explore moving completely free from inhibition. And today we have a very special guest. This is Clare Maxwell. She's a sexy mover, embodied, brilliant lady, expert in Alexander technique, and many more wonders. Tell us a little bit more about you, Claire.
Oh, well, it's funny because Alexander technique is probably, at least in its public face, right? One of the least sexy forms of embodiment out there. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone has ever. So, if um, just the fact that I'm here with you means that I'm doing my job because one of my projects is to somaticize the Alexander technique because I do think it saved my life as a dancer. I was a professional dancer, so that's like the first half of my life. And, you know, I could tell the story, but basically, I'm really on a warpath right now about what is embodiment. And I'm not saying I have the answer to that question, but I know that the first time I had an inkling that there was something different uh, in moving, I already had so much movement skill when I first encountered the Alexander technique. So I thought I was in touch with my body and I thought I was in control of my body. We were just talking about that before we
Damn.
started. I was in control of my body. That was the problem. I was so in control of my body. Uh,
That was the problem.
that was the problem.
That was the problem. Oh my
And
God.
then for people that can't see the image, we're both like holding our head, like, like the Edward Munch picture, the scream, like, ah! I had so much
Oh,
skill in my body.
yes.
Uh, And I had begun acquiring that skill from a very innocent place as a young person. You know, I had a very unusual and profoundly fantastic dance teacher when I was very young, like 9. Uh, and she showed me that dance was feeling your own body, enjoying that, and then strengthening your ability to move more and enjoy more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, enjoy more.
And then expressing that in space and arranging those experiences in time and space, and then having other people that you are dancing with, right? But then when I started training professionally, all of a sudden it got to be all about what the teacher wanted me to look like and what I should look like in the mirror. And while this is a dance experience, I know your podcast has a lot of women who um,
Yes,
are listening.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
women and men, but yeah, I think all of us in the culture when we grow up. Well, tell me how it was for you that there's a time when you're a child where you don't really think about what it's looking like to other people.
Yes, yes. You're not
And
performing.
so you're not performing, but you are very observant. And that's important because we are social animals, right? And we start to take the culture in and we start to embody the culture, even if it's not being spoken to us directly. We start to embody it, and there gets to be a lot of armor, like we shape our bodies to what we think we should look like and what we think we should feel like, even sexiness,
Even
right?
sexiness. It
Yeah,
becomes
like what sexy should look like for girls, what sexy should look like for boys. But then what happens if that's not what feels good to us? Then it's not a good experience. And so this is what dance training became like for me. And I became imprisoned in style.
Oh my God, imprisoned in style.
In style. So style would be sort of like how gender is presented in our cultures,
Yes.
right? And even, you know, non-binary people. I just saw a video the other day, it was brilliant, of a non-binary person, I believe in India, saying, "Listen, uh, you know, yes, there traditionally in Indian culture there was a place for non-binary people in the past, and that was part of our tradition. And yes, we are forward thinking, you know, non-binary people. Yes, we are forward thinking, and there is a trans person or a non-binary person in the future. But I'm here right now, and I want to feel myself right now, you know, in my body right now. To me, that's what embodiment is." That was a long answer to your question, but anyway,
That is a glorious
so
one.
yeah, so when I first encountered Alexander technique, it was kind of like the teacher just gently pointed out to me, you know, you're armoring yourself right now.
Oh,
And so this is to me the core of one of my core principles is that embodiment starts with an acceptance of oneself and what one is doing or being or feeling. And so there's kind of like a curiosity, and it requires letting go of judgment. So it was so different in that moment from the teacher saying, you shouldn't be doing that, you should be doing this,
yeah.
right? Instead, she was saying, do you know that every time you raise your arm, you're lifting your ribs up? She was like, you're lifting your ribs up and that's tightening your back. And I know you're interested in pelvic floor. So, you know, if I lift my ribs up and I put my arm back, I'm stiffening my lower back and my pelvic floor is just being dumped forward and everything is like, I'm so disconnected from my legs,
Yes.
right? So I'm disconnecting from my connection to the earth when I do
Wow.
that.
Yes.
And so she was like, and I mean, I'm still enjoying that revelation, the non-judgmental revelation. Wow, look what a disconnection that was. And that was from a dance style that was supposed to be about connecting to the earth, right? Lemon technique was
One.
about connecting to
Yes.
the earth. But for some reason, the way I had been taught was actually in conflict with the expressed intention of the work. Isn't that sad?
It's so sad because that's like a sample of the sensual imprisonment that we're living in our Western culture, if not globally. Like I relate with you because I have seen myself dancing without dancing. I've seen myself performing a series of movements as expected and being applauded for something that I wanted to do, did my best to comply with, but finally didn't meant because I mean I have danced in such a deteriorated state of injury and pretend nothing's happening. And that was like a important wake up call, but I didn't really pay the attention. And even I became yoga certified, became a Pilates master teacher trainer, did the Bones for Life applied
Yeah.
exercise. And it wasn't until I went out from my office one day after in one of my regular 80-hour work weeks. And I was so exhausted and burnt out that I stumbled and fell from the stairs. And I felt my low back making a crack, like a big sound. And it was my psoas muscle detaching from a lumbar vertebra. I have, for the ones in video,
Oh,
they can see like this is the pink string in the skeleton is the psoas. So
yes,
literally
yes.
cracked like a branch that you break. And I couldn't move, like I couldn't stand up, I couldn't walk. I gave a full training sitting on a chair, just dictating the movements. And it was like devastating in every way because
Profound.
I was used to use my willpower and my strength and my determination and also my compliance to move forward in life. So I said, no, I'm gonna get up. And no, I tried as soon as I got to get up, the pain would sit me back down. And I just
Yes.
couldn't coordinate because the muscle wasn't, still is hanging as a loose piece of steak. And it was um, like a an edge experience that led me to find solace in those strange body crookedness that we make when we have a terrible stomach ache or a menstrual cramp or you have like a contracture in the shoulder and you cannot move and you finally find a setup where it doesn't hurt and it's like I'm this
Ah,
there, don't touch me because I'm gonna scream. And from
yes.
there I discovered like, okay, if I pay attention I can
Mm.
rest here. And then I began exploring where, like, how could I move without pain? And that's when I really see the value of pleasure because as long as the movement felt not only not painful or okay, but I needed to find a way to move that felt good, that I could enjoy and follow that path. And that's the path that brought me here to be able to sit, stand, move, walk, etc. So so this leads me to what you say, that controlling the body is a problem. Like I became the master of my universe bypassing the fact that 80%, if not more, of our existence is unconscious. Like we don't consciously keep the rhythm of our kidneys filtering or our heartbeat. It's we are so complex already. And when we want to pretend to control the body in this like Western rational um, nature devastating way, we end up mm, detaching ourselves from the source of bodily wisdom that keep us alive, of life itself. So yeah, it's
Mm.
terrible that
Mm.
we see like not only that we fall into disembodiment and burnout, but actually that you and me, we have been educated in a formal school of dancing to dance without dancing. Like we, yeah, because I mean,
Well, what are we dancing with? That is the question. And
yes,
so this is what another core principle of what I'm doing. And have I have two forms of work that I'm continually in dialogue with in my own body and then with my co-conspirators, right? One is called mobile body alignment
yes,
work, right? And then the other is cranial nerve sequencing. So these are two ways I have devised to use my body to disrupt actually the formal practice of Alexander technique, to disrupt it, to disrupt the way that Western culture has crept in to, because like many forms of embodiment, there's this core experience, right? Like what you had. Many people who have created different forms of embodiment are people like us who ran up against, it was kind of a life or death matter, somehow it got pointed out to us. And I imagine you there coming into contact with that 95% of you that's like what we call in our Western language unconscious or subconscious functioning, like an animal that's injured. The animal just curls up. They have to stay very still. And they probably go through a really similar process. And it's amazing if you've ever had an animal that went through that. They don't want to be bothered. They go alone, they curl up, they stay until they can find a movement and until they can get up and get the water and food again,
Yes.
So many people have had those experiences, and then they come at it from a certain point of view. Feldenkrais, Alexander, these were all individual people. They have an insight and they discover a truth in the body, right? And then they try to teach it to other people, which means you have to formalize it.
Yes.
And then there gets to be a form. And then because we're creatures of habit, those of us who study, it's hard sometimes. You learn the form, but then you have to find the animal inside the form,
Yes.
So you kind of go back and forth.
Yes.
You kind of go back and forth. And so I think we all have to do that. And there are all these brilliant forms, but I still feel like there's a little bit of a need for the trickster, because this pre-verbal embodiment, this wild animalness, it's foundational to embodiment, right? It's foundational, and it's this dialogue that we have with our felt experience, and our, what we call, for lack of a better word, our body, that everybody has. And it's particular and unique. I don't think I've ever met two people for who it's exactly the same.
Yes.
So as teachers, like I work with private clients, but I also mentor a lot of teachers. And everybody has these brilliant forms, but I feel like I'm trying to offer these little trickster methods.
Yes.
To get into the form and mess it up, like, so that we never have the same experience twice. Even if we use a form to work, like I think Feldenkrais created thousands of exercises. Alexander is almost the opposite.